A lot of the times when you're working on a project, you're going to need to use some of the same features. So instead of implementing them again or copying and pasting code into your new project, it can be more efficient to use what's called modules, which is where you can take some code from a different file and use it in your current program. That's what we're going to be looking at today. Python and most languages will have what's called a standard library, which is a set of modules that you can just use from the get-go. So one of the libraries in the standard library in Python is called random. So if we import random, this means we can use some of the functions that appear in random. So for example, we can print a random dot rand int between 0 and 10. So we want a random integer or number, whole number between 0 and 10. And if I hover over this, we can see that it includes both of the endpoints. So we can have a 0 and we can have 10. So if we run this right here, you can see we get 5. But if we run it again, we get a 3. And if we do for underscore in range 5, so underscore is often used in for loops when you don't actually need to use the iteration variable, you just want to do something a certain amount of times. And range with one parameter is the same as doing 0 to 5. It basically means you want to do it 5 times, so you have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, which is 5 options. So this is going to give us 5 random numbers: 1, 7, 3, 10, and 0. Cool. If we were to have a list, so maybe lst equals 1, 2, 3, just like that, we can use a different function. So randint is a function in the random file. Okay, so we can use a different function from random called choice, and we can pass in this list item, this list, and it will give us a random element from the list. So if we run this, we can see we have 2, then 3, then 1, then 3, and then 3. If we wanted to select 2 items for the list, maybe let's just make the list a little longer, 4 and 5. If we wanted to select 2 random items from a list, but we don't want any duplicates, we can use a different function called sample. In this sample, we'll need a list, and we'll also need a number of items to take. So if we have 2, we run the program, you see here we'll get a list of 2 items from the list, and we've done it 5 times, so it's happening 5 times over. And we've got 5 in 3 of the list, which is a bit strange, but that's what happens with random numbers. And each list is 2 elements long. So if we change this to 3 and we run it again, you can see that we have 3 elements. If we make this larger than the list itself, we're going to get an error because we can't take 6 items from a list of 5 items without duplicates. But what if we were to have 5? This is the same number as in the list. So this works. We get all of the items in a random order. If we want all of our items from our list, but in a different order, there's actually a better way of doing it. We can use a different function from random called shuffle. But shuffle works a bit differently. It doesn't give us a return value in the same way that the other items do. The other functions, sorry. So what we're going to need to do is call random.shuffle list and then just print our list. And you can see we get a similar result. So this will not, if we were to try and print the result from this function, we're going to get none because we don't return anything. We just change the list. And that's because if we have a list and we pass in, if we have a function, sorry, and we pass in a list and we change that list, we don't use local variables in the same way. Now that's quite an advanced topic, and I'll talk about it at some point later on. But for now, we just need to know that when we pass in a list to random.shuffle, it will modify the original. Another popular library in the standard library is called math, with the American spelling like this. Now, because I'm British, I'm going to take the opportunity here to show you how we can change the name of a library in the way that we use it in the current file. So if we use the as keyword, I can change this to maths, and now we can use our math library by using maths dot, and here we get some options that VS Code has given us. So maths is a library that gives us a few more mathematical operations than the default. So normally we have x plus equals 1, or a equals 1, b equals 2, c equals a plus b. But it's quite limited in terms of what maths is available to us in normal Python. So math gives us some more functions such as square root, logarithm. What are some of the others? Trigonometric functions, so sine, cosine, and tangent. You also have the arc inverse versions of all of these. There's actually 2 different atans. I suggest that you look into that if you're interested to find out what the difference is between those two. You also have hyperbolic functions, so hyperbolic cosine. We also have some constants, so maths.pi. Now if we print this out, you can see that we get 3.1415965.3, and then it cuts off. So pi is infinite. We can't store an infinite number in a program, but this many digits is enough for most calculations. And if you really need more digits, then you can do it yourself. But maths.pi just makes things a bit easier. So if you want some maths functions that aren't in the base language, try looking into math before trying to implement it yourself. If we only want to take one function from a library, so say for example, we just want a random .randint 0 to 10, we just want a random number, and we don't need random choice, random shuffle, sample, or any of the others, because there are other functions within these libraries that I'm not showing you today. It doesn't really make sense to import the whole library. So what we can do is we can say, instead of import random, we can say from random import randint. Now what this allows us to do is take out this random dot, and we can just use randint as it is. This isn't currently going to do anything, so let's add back the for underscore in range 5, like that, and also print. And you can see we had the same as what we had before. But you can also rename this to maybe RND, and then we can just use RND here, and that works the same. But what if you wanted to import multiple, or what if you wanted to use the whole standard library just using the function name, if you didn't want to include the random on all of your random.randints and random.shuffles? You can import the whole file using this asterisk, import asterisk. And that lets us do randint. It lets us do choice. But this isn't usually recommended because if you do this too much and you're not careful, you can actually override some other functionality that's already in the language, or if you use multiple different modules at the same time, they can clash. Now, one final thing I want to mention, if we go back to import random, we can actually import multiple libraries on the same line. So we can do something like this. We can also rename all of our different libraries like this, and that works just fine. There are a lot of libraries in the standard library. For example, you've got maths and random. You've also got web browser for opening tabs in your web browser. You've got tkinter and turtle for graphics, as well as a lot more such as regular expressions, RE, operating system, OS. You can also you can also download a lot of other libraries from the web. So for example, you've got TensorFlow, you've got NumPy. There are so many libraries to explore in Python. I'll put some links in the description where you can find out more information about these two that we've used here. But honestly, it's worth just trying to explore. Many of the libraries, such as random, you can find in your directory. So make sure to have a look for that, and then you can actually see the source code that goes into creating these. But now let's look at how we can create our own modules. So let's say we have our base file called my module, and let's create another new file called test module.py. And let's say we create a function, def, let's call it foo. Foo and bar are often used in sample code. So let's go with that, and we can just print hello world for now. And so if we were to import test underscore module, and then let's try and do test underscore module dot foo, and that should call this function and print hello world. Let's run this, and you can see that it does. But what if we wanted to put in a bit of a test into this module file? So maybe def test, and this is only going to be called within this file. So we can have just foo, because we only need to call it foo from this file. And then underneath, we want to do test. We want to call the test. So that when we run it from this file, we get our hello world. It's good. But then we run it from here, we get it twice. Because when we import a module, we actually run this whole program. We essentially copy all of these lines and paste them where this line is. And this isn't always what we want to do, because we want to be able to test the program, the module, from when we run it normally, and then just be able to import the functions that we want. So what we can do is we can use this, it's sometimes called a magic method, or a magic attribute. We can use if underscore underscore name underscore underscore, or dunder name double underscore name, is equal to the string double underscore main. So what the hell does that mean? Well, double underscore name is an attribute that is assigned to every different module or file that is used when you run a program. So if we were to just go ahead and print _name up here and run the program, we get _main. But if we were to come over to this file and run it from here, we're going to be printing that same line, _name, but this time it's not called main, it's called test_module, which is the same as the file name. So the main file, the file that you call or start the program from, will rename _name to main. And this means that we can run the module file and call this test, which is giving us hello world, but we can also import it and we won't be running the test. Like this, we are just calling hello world from our own use of the function. We can also use our tricks from earlier. We can instead do from test_module import foo, and then we can call just foo on its own. Get rid of some of these lines. And we can also import foo as test function. And this will work the same. So that's all for this video. The next video in this series is going to talk about classes, which are a bit more of an advanced kind of topic, and they are pretty difficult to understand in Python. So I'm going to be doing another series called Python Plus, which is just going to teach you a lot of the tricks that are often used in Python that don't really fit into like a linear series, but are each individually good to know. So I would suggest going and watching some of those videos from that series if they're already out. But if not, then go for the next video, which is classes.